The shotgun blast echoed through the Whispering Pines trailer park like a thunderclap from hell, ripping Jackson Hale's world apart before he even knew what hit him. He was 19, fresh out of high school in rural Georgia, when his older brother Tommy, his rock, his confidant, slumped against the rusted pickup truck, blood blooming across his chest like a cruel Georgia rose. "Jack, tell him. Love who you love," Tommy gasped, his hand clawing at Jackson's shirt, eyes wild with the kind of fear that comes from knowing you've got seconds left. Jackson screamed until his throat burned, cradling his brother's head as the sirens wailed in the distance. But it was too late. Tommy was gone, leaving behind a widow named Clara and a family fractured like the windshield of that damn truck. That was 3 years ago, and Jackson still woke up tasting the copper tang of that night, the acrid smoke from the stray hunter's bullet that had veered off course during deer season. Now, at 22, he was back in Atlanta after scraping by on odd jobs up north, bartending in dive bars, dodging the leers and the whispers about the queer kid from the sticks. Atlanta was supposed to be a fresh start, a city where the skyline pierced the humid sky like a promise of reinvention. But family had a way of dragging you back under, especially when money was involved. The Hales weren't rich, but Tommy's life insurance payout, 50 grand after the lawyers took their cut, had landed in Clara's lap, and their father, Big Jim Hale, a grizzled ex-Marine turned auto mechanic, saw it as a lifeline for the failing garage back home. Jackson pulled his beat-up Ford into the driveway of the old family home on Peachtree Street, the engine coughing like it was on its last breath. The house was a squat ranch-style relic from the 70s, paint peeling like old skin, the front yard choked with weeds that Mama used to fuss over before cancer took her 5 years back. He killed the ignition and sat there, staring at the for sale sign stabbed into the lawn like a betrayal. Big Jim had called him 2 days ago, voice gravelly over the crackle of the line. "Get your ass down here, boy. We got family business. No, I love you. No, miss you. Just orders. Same as always." Inside, the air smelled of stale coffee and motor oil, Big Jim's trademarks. Clara was in the kitchen, her blonde hair tied back in a ponytail that did nothing to hide the hollows under her eyes. She was 24, pretty in that fragile, small-town way, freckles across her nose, a smile that used to light up county fairs. Tommy had married her straight out of high school, a shotgun wedding after she got pregnant with a miscarriage that still haunted her prayers. "Jackson," she said, voice soft as cornbread, hugging him tight enough to crack ribs. "It's good to see you." "He's in the den." Big Jim loomed in the doorway, all 6'4" of him, belly straining against a flannel shirt stained with grease. His face was a map of regrets, deep lines from chain-smoking camels, eyes like chipped flint. "Sit," he grunted, pointing to the sagging couch. Jackson obeyed, the springs groaning under him. Clara hovered, wringing her hands, until Big Jim waved her off. "This is man's talk." The words hung heavy, and Jackson's gut twisted. He knew that tone, the one that said secrets were about to spill like oil from a busted gasket. Big Jim lit a cigarette, the flame flickering shadows across his stubbled jaw. "Clara's in a fix, son. That insurance money is half gone on bills, and the garage is underwater. Banks circling like vultures." He exhaled smoke in a long, defeated plume. "I got an idea. Marry her. Keep it in the family. We combine the payout with the business. Pay off the debts. Start fresh. It's practical. Sensible." Jackson blinked, the room tilting like he'd taken a slug of moonshine. "Marry Clara?" His sister-in-law? The woman who'd sobbed on his shoulder at Tommy's grave, who'd baked him pecan pies on his birthdays even after he moved away. Dad. What the hell? That's insane. She's your daughter-in-law. For Christ's sake. Big Jim's eyes narrowed, the cigarette dangling like a fuse. Tommy's gone. Family sticks together. Jackson. You gonna let us all go down the drain, 'cause of some city boy notions? He leaned forward, voice dropping to a rumble. And don't think I forgot about you. That phase you went through up in Philly. The one with that boy you shacked up with. We don't talk about that here. The rejection hit like a sucker punch, fresh even after years of distance. Jackson had come out to the family right after Tommy's funeral, a desperate grasp for authenticity amid the grief. Big Jim had exploded, fists slamming the table, Bible verses hurled like grenades about abominations and fire. Clara had cried, torn between love and the church picnic gossip. They'd buried it under layers of silence, but it festered, a wound that never scabbed over. It's not a phase, Dad. It's me. And this, forcing Clara into a marriage? That's not sticking together. That's desperation dressed up as duty. Clara slipped back in then, a tray of sweet tea trembling in her hands. Please, Jackson. It's not forever. Just stability. For the garage. For all of us. Her voice cracked, and Jackson saw the fear in her eyes. The same fear that had kept her with Tommy through the bruises and the blackouts, before he cleaned up his act. Big Jim had always preached family first, but this felt like a transaction, cold as a foreclosure notice. That night, Jackson couldn't sleep. He lay on the lumpy guest bed, staring at the water-stained ceiling, the hum of cicadas outside a mocking lullaby. Tommy's ghost lingered in the corners. His laugh, his easy grin, the way he'd ruffle Jackson's hair and say, "You're the brave one, little bro, brave." The word mocked him now. He'd run to the city to escape the judgment, but here he was, pulled back into the mire. And then there was Henry. Henry Whitaker had been Tommy's best friend since Little League, the golden boy with sun-kissed hair and a laugh that could disarm a room. They'd grown up thick as thieves, Henry the straight-A quarterback, Tommy the wild-card wide receiver, Jackson the awkward tag-along who nursed crushes he didn't understand yet. After Tommy died, Henry had shown up at the funeral in a crisp button-down, eyes red-rimmed, clapping Jackson on the back with a whisper. He loved you fierce, kid. Don't let this town grind you down. They'd kept in touch sporadically. Texts about football games, late-night calls when the loneliness hit hard. Last year, during Pride Month, Henry had sent a rainbow emoji with a beer emoji. No words, but it was enough to crack Jackson's walls. Now, with the weight of his father's scheme pressing down, Jackson pulled out his phone and dialed. It rang twice before Henry's voice filled the line, warm and rough like bourbon on the rocks. "Jack? Holy shit. Man. What's up? You sound like hell." "I am hell," Jackson admitted, voice thick. "Dad's lost it. Wants to marry Clara. To save the garage or some bullshit. And he brought up you know what. Like it's yesterday." Silence stretched. Then Henry's sigh. "Jesus. I'm in Atlanta for a conference construction gig upstate. Meet me at the Eagle, that dive on Piedmont. We can talk it out, drown it in whiskey." The Eagle was a leather bar, unapologetically queer, with sticky floors and walls plastered in faded posters of drag shows past. Jackson hesitated. Big Jim would skin him alive if he knew. but the pull was magnetic. Yeah. Gimme an hour. The drive through Atlanta's neon-veined streets felt like shedding skin. By the time he parked, the city's pulse thrummed in his veins. Honking taxis, laughter spilling from brewpubs, the distant wail of a saxophone. The Eagles' door swung open to a haze of cigarette smoke and bass-heavy country remixes. Men in flannel and boots clustered around pool tables. Henry was at the bar, nursing a Jack and Coke, his broad shoulders filling out a faded Braves tee. He looked up, and damn if his smile didn't hit Jackson like sunlight after rain. "Get over here, you idiot," Henry said, pulling him into a hug that lingered a beat too long, firm arms, the scent of cedar cologne and clean sweat. Jackson's heart stuttered, old feelings resurfacing like weeds through concrete. They danced around this once, after a bonfire party when they were 18, Henry's hand on his thigh under the stars, breath mingling hot and hesitant. But Tommy had walked up, clueless, and the moment shattered. They claimed a corner booth, shots lined up like soldiers. Henry listened as Jackson spilled it all, the proposal, the rejection, the ache of being the family's black sheep. "It's like he thinks I'm defective," Jackson said, slamming back his glass. "And Clara. God, she's trapped in this too. But marrying Dad? It's wrong on every level." Henry's jaw tightened, fingers drumming the table. Big Jim's always been a bulldozer. But this control, Jack. Fear of losing the empire he built from scrap. He reached across, hand covering Jackson's, callous thumb tracing knuckles, a spark jumping the gap. "You're not defective. You're you." And Tommy knew it. "Hell, I know it." The air thickened, charged with unspoken history. Jackson's pulse raced, eyes locking on Henry's mouth, the way his lips curved soft and sure. "Henry, that night by the fire. You ever think about all the damn time?" Henry cut in, voice low, gaze unwavering. "Scared the shit out of me back then. Small town, expectations. But now I'm done running." Their first kiss was messy, desperate, whiskey-tinged and hungry, Henry's hand cupping Jackson's jaw as the bar faded to static. It was affirmation, a rebellion against the ghosts waiting at home. They stumbled into Henry's hotel room 2 blocks away, clothes shedding like burdens, bodies colliding in a tangle of limbs and gasps. Henry was gentle at first, mapping Jackson's skin with reverent touches, whispering beautiful against collarbones and hips. Then urgency took over, nails raking backs, moans muffled into pillows, the world narrowing to sweat-slicked sheets and the rhythm of heart sinking. Afterward, tangled in the dim glow of city lights filtering through blinds, Henry traced lazy patterns on Jackson's chest. "This doesn't have to be a one-off, Jack. Stay in Atlanta. Fight this with me. For Clara. For you. For us." Jackson wanted to believe it, but dawn brought doubt, creeping in with the coffee aroma from the lobby. Back at the house, Big Jim was already in the garage, wrench in hand, oblivious or willfully blind. Clara pulled Jackson aside in the laundry room, her voice a whisper over the drone of the dryer. "He means well, in his way. But I can't do it, Jackson. Not to Tommy's memory. Not when my heart's elsewhere." She blushed, glancing away, and Jackson wondered if there was more to her story. A secret suitor, perhaps, hidden from prying eyes. The days blurred into a tense standoff. Big Jim pushed the plan relentlessly, lawyer visits, Financial spreadsheets spread across the kitchen table like battle maps. Jackson countered with quiet defiance, cooking meals that stretched the budget, fixing leaks in the roof with Henry's borrowed tools. Henry became a fixture, dropping by under the guise of helping with the garage, his truck parked brazenly in the drive. Big Jim eyed him suspiciously, grumbling about city pansies. But Henry disarmed him with charm, cracking jokes over beers, sharing war stories from construction sites that echoed the old man's marine tales. One evening, as fireflies danced in the yard, Jackson and Henry sat on the porch swing, shoulders brushing. "I love this," Henry murmured, head tipping onto Jackson's. "You, here." "Real." Jackson's throat tightened. Love, the word hovered unspoken, too fragile for the storm brewing. But in that moment, with the South's humid breath on their skin, felt possible. A family, not of blood, but of choice. Yet shadows lengthened. Whispers reached Jackson through Clara, a nosy neighbor spotting Henry's truck at odd hours, the church ladies clucking about that Hale boy and his friend, Big Jim's temper frayed, outbursts over burnt dinners masking deeper fears. And then, the betrayal cracked open like thunder. It started with a letter, innocuous at first, a crisp envelope from the bank, stamped with red urgency. Jackson found it tucked under the windshield wiper of his Ford one muggy Tuesday morning, the paper already wilting in the heat. Final notice. Foreclosure proceedings initiated. The garage's debts had ballooned, interest compounding like kudzu, and Big Jim's Hail Mary marriage scheme was the only rope he saw. But Jackson knew better. It was a noose, tightening around them all. He confronted his father in the shop, the air thick with the tang of oil and regret. Big Jim was under a Chevy Impala, legs sticking out like surrendered limbs. "Dad, this ends now. We're not medieval royals trading daughters for dowries. Clara deserves better. You both do." A wrench clattered to the concrete, and Big Jim emerged, wiping sweat from his brow with a rag that smelled of diesel. His eyes, bloodshot from another sleepless night, fixed on Jackson with a mix of fury and something softer. Pleading, "Maybe. You think I want this? Watching my boy die, then scraping by on scraps? That money's our salvation, son. Clara understands. She's family. Family doesn't pimp out widows," Jackson shot back, voice echoing off rusted tool racks. Big Jim's face purpled, fist clenching the rag like a throat. For a heartbeat, Jackson braced for the swing. The old man's temper had left bruises before, hidden under long sleeves. But instead, Big Jim deflated, shoulders sagging as he sank onto a stool. "You always were the stubborn one. Like your mama. She fought the cancer tooth and nail, wouldn't let it win. But this is survival, Jackson. And you're throwing it away for what? That Whitaker boy." The venom in that Whitaker boy sliced deep, reopening the wound of rejection. Jackson's chest heaved, memories flooding. The night he'd confessed over Mama's grave, Big Jim's roar, "My son's dead to me if he's one of them," followed by weeks of icy silence. Clara had bridged the gap then, slipping notes under his door, "He'll come around." Love doesn't quit, but it had, in its way, leaving Jackson adrift. "I'm throwing away nothing," he said, steady as he could. "I'm choosing truth. For all of us." Big Jim snorted, lighting up despite the no-smoking sign Jackson had nailed up last week. "Truth. Pretty word for sin. Bible's clear. Boy. Leviticus don't lie." Neither does my heart. The words hung, bold and bare, and for the first time, Jackson saw a flicker in his father's eyes. Not acceptance, but fracture. A crack in the armor. Clara walked in then, arms laden with grocery bags, her face a mask of forced cheer. Boys, supper's on soon. Fried chicken, your favorite. Jim. She set the bags down, but her hands trembled, betraying the strain. Later, as they ate in strained quiet, the clink of forks on plates louder than words, Jackson caught her stealing glances at her phone, a secretive smile tugging her lips. When Big Jim lumbered off to watch the game, she pulled Jackson into the pantry, the door creaking shut behind them. There's someone, she whispered, eyes bright. Met him at the library book club. Daniel, divorced, teaches history at the community college. He's kind, Jack. Sees me, not Tommy's shadow. Tears welled, but she swiped them away. But if I say no to your dad, the money dries up. We're out on the street. Jackson pulled her close, the scent of her lavender shampoo a reminder of simpler days. Then we find another way. Together. No one's marrying anyone. She nodded, but doubt lingered like humidity. That night, Henry came over with takeout from a hole-in-the-wall Thai place. Pad see ew steaming in styrofoam. Spring rolls crisp and fate-tempting. Big Jim tolerated him with grunts. But over dinner, Henry spun tales of his latest job site, a high-rise downtown, beams kissing the sky, workers catcalling from scaffolds. His laugh filled the room, chasing shadows, and Jackson marveled at how he fit, broad and unyielding, yet tender in stolen touches under the table. After, they escaped to the backyard, the swing creaking under their weight. Stars pricked the velvet sky, Atlanta's light pollution smudging the edges. Henry's arm draped casual around Jackson's shoulders, fingers toying with the hair at his nape. Your old man's a tough nut, but I see it the way he watches you fix things. Pride, buried deep, Jackson leaned into him, the solid warmth a balm. Pride? More like shame. For me being me. He hesitated, then plunged. Henry, what are we doing? This us, it's real. But my family's imploding. I can't drag you into the wreckage. Henry turned, cupping Jackson's face, thumb brushing a stray tear. Drag me? Hell, I'm volunteering. Been half in love with you since that bonfire, Jack. The rest? You pulled me in with those eyes. That fire. His kiss was slow, deliberate, lips parting soft, tongues tracing promises. They made love under the pecan tree later. Blanket from the shed, the ground cool and yielding. Henry's body was a landscape of strength, corded arms bracketing Jackson, hips rolling with a rhythm that spoke of patience earned. Whispers wove between gasps. Mine, stay, forever, but forever was a fragile word. The next week brought the storm. Big Jim, desperate, escalated, inviting the family lawyer over for a discussion, papers drawn up for a quickie courthouse wedding. Clara balked, feigning a migraine, but the pressure mounted. Jackson rallied, calling in favors. A buddy from bartending days who knew a financial advisor, scraping together a crowdfunding pitch for the garage online. Hale's Auto, Generations of Grit. The page read, photos of Tommy grinning grease-smeared, Big Jim in his prime. Donations trickled, 50 here, 100 there from old customers, Tommy's high school teammates. Henry threw himself in too, leveraging his construction network for pro bono advice on loans. Late nights blurred into strategy sessions at the kitchen table, laptops glowing amid beer bottles. One such night, as rain lashed the windows, Big Jim stumbled in from the garage, soaked and swaying. "What the hell is this?" he bellowed, snatching Jackson's laptop. The screen showed the GoFundMe, comments scrolling, "For Tommy's memory. Proud of you, Jack, stay strong." His father's face twisted, rage, then something rawer. "You think strangers give a damn? This family's mine to fix." He hurled the laptop, screen cracking against the wall. Henry surged up, but Jackson waved him back, heart pounding. "Dad, stop. We're not your pawns." Big Jim whirled, finger jabbing like a bayonet. "Pawns? You're a goddamn liability, parading that filth around my house." His eyes locked on Henry, venom pure. "Whitaker, get out. Before I make you." Henry's fists clenched, but he held steady, voice even. "With respect, sir, that's not your call. Jackson's a man now. His life, his choices." The slap came swift, Big Jim's palm cracking across Henry's cheek, the sound a gunshot in the quiet. Time froze, Clara gasping from the hallway, Jackson lunging forward. Henry touched his reddening skin. No retaliation, just a sad shake of his head. "You hit like you love, Jim. But it don't stick." He left then, truck roaring into the night, and Jackson followed, catching him in the driveway. Rain plastered their shirts, but they collided anyway, fierce, needing. "Don't go," Jackson begged against his neck. "Fight with me. Always," Henry murmured, holding tight. Inside, the house was a tomb. Big Jim vanished to his room, Clara patching the laptop with duct tape, silent tears tracking her cheeks. The betrayal came the next dawn, sharp as shattered glass. Jackson woke to pounding on the door, a process server in khakis thrusting papers at him. Eviction notice for the house, not just the garage. Big Jim had forged Clara's signature on a second mortgage, gambling the payout on a sure-thing horse race that tanked. Desperation had twisted him, lies compounding until the bank called bluff. Clara found the documents in the trash, her face ashen. "He said it was for us. For security." But her eyes held no surprise, only weary resignation. Jackson pieced it, the secret of calls, the late nights at the track. Betrayal, not just financial, but foundational. Big Jim had sold them out, chasing ghosts of glory. Fury propelled Jackson to the track's outskirts, where Big Jim nursed a flask in his truck. "How could you?" Jackson roared, rain mixing with tears. "Tommy trusted you. We all did." Big Jim didn't flinch, eyes glassy. "Had to try, son. For the name. Hail men don't fold." But his voice cracked, the mask slipping. In that mudslick parking lot, father and son shattered, yells turning to sobs, arms wrapping in a hug born of ruin. "I'm sorry," Big Jim whispered, first time Jackson heard it. "For the boy you are. For all of it." Back home, Clara confessed her own secret over coffee gone cold. Daniel had proposed quietly, with a ring from a pawn shop. "I want out, Jack. A real life." Relief washed Jackson. She wasn't trapped, just tethered by guilt. Henry returned that afternoon, cheek bruised but spirit unbroken. They gathered, for fractured souls in the living room, and plotted anew. Sell the house. Pool the GoFundMe with Clara's remaining funds. Start small. A mobile auto service. Henry fronting tools from his crew. Big Jim resisted at first. Pride a stubborn weed. But Clara's gentle hand on his knee. We're Hales. We adapt. Broke him. He nodded. Gruff. For Tommy. As weeks unfolded, the air lightened. Jackson and Henry stole moments. A sunrise run through Piedmont Park. Hands brushing amid joggers. Lazy Sundays in bed. Sunlight painting their skin gold. Love deepened. Roots sinking past the drama. Henry's quiet strength. Jackson's fierce heart weaving something unbreakable. But climax loomed. Inevitable as a Georgia squall. The church picnic. Annual Hale tradition. Potluck under oaks dripping Spanish moss. Big Jim insisted. Show 'em we're still standing. Jackson dreaded it. The stares. The sermons veiled as small talk. Yet he went. Henry's hand a secret anchor in his pocket. The spread was bountiful. Deviled eggs. Coleslaw. Ribs sticky with sauce. Laughter rang false at first. But Tommy's old coach clapped Big Jim's back. Neighbors murmured support for the fundraiser. Clara glowed beside Daniel. Introduced shyly as a friend. Then, the pastor, Reverend Hayes, Bible in hand, cornered Jackson by the lemonade cooler. Heard you're exploring, son. Remember, the Lord loves the sinner, but the sin. Henry appeared like a guardian, arms slipping around Jackson's waist. Public, defiant. Gasps rippled, forks pausing mid-air. Big Jim froze across the lawn, face thunderous. What in tarnation? The world narrowed to that moment. Henry's steady gaze, Jackson's chin lifting. This is me. That love, not sin. Big Jim stormed over, crowd parting like the Red Sea. Fists balled, voice booming. Not here, not my boy. But Clara stepped forward, Daniel at her side. Jim, enough. They're happy. Let it be. The confrontation erupted. Yells clashing like cymbals. Accusations flying, betrayal, tradition, truth. Big Jim's face crumpled, not in anger, but anguish. I lost Tommy. Can't lose you too. He reached, tentative, and Jackson met him halfway, embrace raw, rain starting to patter on the tent above. The picnic dissolved into chaos after that. Tables overturned in the scuffle of emotions rather than fists. Plates shattering like fragile egos. Women clutching pearls as if the devil himself had crashed the potluck. Reverend Hayes sputtered scriptures, but his flock fractured, some nodding solemnly, others slipping Jackson sympathetic smiles behind fans of fried okra. Big Jim pulled away from the hug first, his massive frame shuddering, eyes averted to the moss-draped oaks as thunder grumbled distant threats. Get in the truck, he muttered to Jackson, voice hoarse. We talk. Alone. Henry squeezed Jackson's hand once. Firm, a lifeline before stepping back. I'm here when you need me. Clara nodded too, linking arms with Daniel, her choice a quiet revolution. As Jackson climbed into the cab of Big Jim's battered F-150, the rain began in earnest, fat drops smacking the windshield like accusatory fingers. The wipers swished rhythmically, a metronome to the silence stretching between them. They drove out to Stone Mountain, the massive granite dome looming like a judgmental god under the storm clouds. Big Jim parked at the base, engine idling, the dash lights casting his face in ghostly blue. Always hated this place, he said finally, cracking the window to light a smoke despite the downpour. Confederate ghosts and all. But Tommy loved climbing it, said the view made small feel big. Jackson swallowed, throat tight. He dragged me up once. Nearly killed me. But yeah. The view. He paused. Rain drumming louder. Dad. Back there. Don't. Big Jim cut him off, exhaling smoke in a defeated cloud. I know what I saw. You and Whitaker. Out in the open. Like it ain't poison. The word landed heavy, laced with the old venom, but softer now, cracked, like the man's resolve. It's not poison, Jackson said, turning to face him. It's life. Love. The kind Tommy had with Clara, messy and real. Why can't you see that for me? Big Jim's jaw worked, cigarette burning forgotten between fingers. Because I failed you, boy. After your mama died, I buried myself in the garage. Tommy was the easy one, football hero, straight as an arrow. You were quiet, watchful. Then that confession, after the funeral, felt like God punishing me twice. Tears tracked his cheeks, mixing with rain seeping through the cracked seal. I pushed you away 'cause I couldn't face it. My son, loving wrong, the admission hung, a bridge over the chasm. Jackson reached over, hand on his father's knee, tentative, then sure. You didn't fail. We're human, Dad. Messed up, but trying. And Henry, he's the best thing since Mama's peach cobbler. He sees me, scars and all. Big Jim nodded, slow, the fight draining like the storm easing to drizzle. Whitaker's solid. Always was. Tommy's ghost approves. I reckon. A ghost of a smile tugged his lips. First in years. They sat there till the rain stopped, talking haltingly about Tommy's hidden struggles with the bottle, Mama's secret letters to a sister in California, the weight Big Jim carried alone. No miracles, just honesty, raw as peeled bark. Back home, the house felt lighter, air circulating fresh. Clara and Daniel stayed for dinner, her hand in his, rings glinting simple under the fluorescence. Big Jim grumbled but passed the cornbread, even cracking a joke about bookish types needing grease under their nails. Henry arrived late, bearing apologies for the scene, but Big Jim waved it off. Boys got guts. Like his brother. Over pie, stories flowed, Tommy's pranks, high school hijinks, and for a flicker, the table hummed with the echo of family unbroken. But peace was tentative, a truce not a treaty. The foreclosure loomed, papers piling like unanswered prayers. Jackson threw himself into the fundraiser, updating the GoFundMe with videos. Big Jim wrenching on a vintage Mustang, Clara organizing a car wash at the church lot, Reverend Hayes, chastened, donated the space. Henry coordinated volunteers, his crew hauling in donated parts, a local band playing for a benefit barbecue. The total climbed, $5,000, $10,000, whispers of a miracle. Nights belonged to Jackson and Henry, sanctuary in the chaos. They'd drive to the Chattahoochee River, tailgate spread with cooler beers, feet dangling over the bank as fireflies blinked Morse code. One such evening, as cicadas chorused, Henry pulled a small box from his pocket, velvet, unassuming. Not proposing, not yet. But think about it. Inside, 2 silver bands, etched with coordinates, the bonfire spot from years back. Jackson's breath hitched, slipping one on. Yes. To thinking. To us. They made love on the truck bed, stars wheeling overhead, bodies a symphony of give and take. Henry's reverence in every caress, Jackson's abandon in every arch. Afterward, curled close, Henry confessed, scared shitless, Jack, never done this for real. But with you, feels like home, home. The word anchored Jackson amid the swirl. Yet betrayal's shadow lingered, not from Big Jim now, but deeper, insidious. Whispers at the barbecue, a cousin, Earl, Big Jim's nephew, slick as a used car salesman, eyeing the GoFundMe like a pie to slice. Earl had always hovered, family in name only, borrowing tools never returned. Jackson dismissed it at first, but then the discrepancies, donations vanishing from the account, traced to a dummy PayPal Earl controlled. Confrontation came swift, Jackson storming Earl's trailer on the outskirts, Henry at his back. Earl lounged on a lawn chair, beer gut spilling over belt, smirking. "Cousin, what's the ruckus? You skimmed us," Jackson accused, phone screen glowing with bank alerts. $3,000 gone. "For what, your bookie's debts?" Earl's laugh died quick under Henry's glare. "Family helps family, Jack. Uncle Jim owes me for old favors. Thought I'd collect. Betrayal twice over, blood turning venom." Jackson's fists itched, but Henry held him steady. "Keep it. But you're done. Tell the donors. Or we do." Earl slunk away, tail between legs, but the theft gutted momentum. Trust eroded like riverbank. Clara stepped up then, her quiet strength blooming. With Daniel's help, she rallied the churchwomen, not for sermons, but support, bake sales, prayer chains for the Hales trial. Big Jim, humbled, joined a Debtors Anonymous group, his gravel voice sharing in circle. "Pride's a killer, worse than any bottle." Progress, inch by inch. The climax built like summer heat, peaking at the garage's last stand auction. Everything must go, from rusted hoists to Tommy's old toolbox, proceeds to the new fund. The lot buzzed, neighbors in lawn chairs, a DJ spinning classic rock, food trucks belching barbecue smoke. Jackson manned the register, heart in throat, as bidders circled. Henry hawked items with charm, Clara charmed with smiles, Big Jim oversaw with gruff pride. Then, the sky cracked, literal and figurative. A freak hailstorm rolled in, unforecasted, pelting the crowd like divine wrath. Tents shredded, items scattered, panic rippling. "It's a sign!" someone yelled. Reverend Hayes, perhaps, or just fear talking. Bidders fled, the lot emptying to echoes. Jackson stood soaked, defeated, until Big Jim's bellow cut through. "Hail grit, people. We don't fold for a little ice." He grabbed a mic, voice booming. "This here's my boys' fight, my fight. Lost my eldest to a bullet. Nearly lost my soul to stupid pride. But family's rebuilding. You in." Silence. Then cheers, tentative, swelling. Locals returned, umbrellas blooming like defiant flowers. Bids soared. $500 for the Impala, $200 for Tommy's jersey. By storm's end, they'd cleared $15,000, enough for the mobile rig, a down payment on hope. That night, drenched but victorious, the family gathered at the house. Now there's foreclosure stalled by a sympathetic banker touched by the story. Beers clinked, toasts to Tommy, to love, in all its forms. Big Jim pulled Jackson aside on the porch, Henry's arm around his waist a steady presence. "Proud of you, son. For fighting. For being brave." Jackson hugged him fierce, tears salt on lips. Love you, Dad. Flaws and all. As the party wound down, Henry led Jackson to the backyard, under the pecan tree where it had begun. Now? He asked, box in hand. Jackson nodded, breathless. Rings exchanged in moonlight, vows whispered. Through storms and betrayals, I choose you. Clara and Daniel announced their wedding date. Small courthouse, with the Hales as witnesses. Big Jim, misty-eyed, offered to walk her. Like I shoulda for your mama, healing, not whole, but forward. Jackson woke next to Henry, sunlight slanting gold, the city humming promise. Atlanta wasn't Georgia's heart, but it beat strong, diverse, unyielding. And in that beat, Jackson found his rhythm. Months folded into the relentless churn of reinvention. Each day a small victory etched in grease and grit. The mobile auto service, Hale on Wheels, launched from a rented lot on the edge of Midtown. A step van tricked out with Jackson welders. Big Jim at the helm in a cap embroidered with the logo Jackson designed on a whim. A wrench crossed with a heart. Clara handled the books from Daniel's apartment, her laughter freer now, unburdened by ghosts. Numbers don't judge, she'd say, pecking Daniel's cheek over spreadsheets. Jackson and Henry settled into a rhythm too. A one-bedroom walk-up in Inman Park, walls papered with Polaroids. The bonfire coordinates tattooed on wrists. The auction's Hale-Pock triumph. Big Jim's first AA chip clutched in callous palm. Mornings started tangled in sheets. Henry's stubble rasping kisses awake. Coffee brewing to the sizzle of eggs on a hot plate. You're my anchor, Henry murmured one dawn. Fingers tracing the rings band. Simple silver, worn smooth by habit. Work pulled them apart by day. Jackson scouting clients door to door. Charm his best tool. Henry on scaffolds. Blueprints unrolling like dreams. Evenings reunited them. Dinners at hole-in-the-wall spots. Elbows on checkered cloths. Dissecting the world's absurdities over craft IPAs. Sex was their language too, playful some nights, urgent others. Bodies mapping forgiveness in arches and gasps. Henry had a way of holding Jackson after. Palms splayed over his heart. Feel that? Ours. But scars don't fade clean. They itch under new skin. Big Jim's progress stuttered. A relapse at a customer's tailgate party. Flask hidden in the van's glove box. Jackson found him slumped in the driveway at 2 a.m., reeking of regret. Sorry, son. Slipped. No excuses. Just raw plea. They talked till sunrise. Jackson sharing his own fears. The whispered doubt that love like his was borrowed time. Fragile as Atlanta's summer storms. You're enough, Big Jim said. Voice gravel soft. More than I ever was. It was absolution. Partial but potent. Stitching father-son seams. Clara's wedding was the next milestone. A backyard affair at Daniel's. String lights twinkling like fireflies reclaimed. She wore a sundress white as magnolias. Daniel in khakis pressed crisp. Vows exchanged under the pecan tree that had witnessed so much Hale heartache. Big Jim walked her down the aisle of scattered petals. Arm steady, eyes suspiciously bright. Take care of her. Book boy, he growled, but clapped Daniel's shoulder after. Jackson stood best man. Henry at his side in a borrowed suit, their hands brushing secret vows. The reception spilled laughter and line dances. Big Jim even twirling Clara once. Clumsy, but earnest. As cake cut and toasts rang, a shadow slipped in Earl, uninvited, nursing a beer by the fence. Eye sly. He'd slithered back post-theft, making amends with a half-assed IOU. But trust was ash. Jackson confronted him quiet, Henry's bulk a deterrent. Not tonight. But we're watching. Earl smirked, slinking off, but his presence soured the air, a reminder that family could wound deepest. Later, alone on the porch, Jackson confessed to Henry, "Sometimes I wonder if we're cursed. Betrayals like weeds." Henry pulled him close, chin atop head. "Nah. We're the garden. Weeds make us stronger." Their kiss deepened there, guests oblivious, world narrowing to heat and heartbeat. Fall brought harvest, hail on wheels booming, reviews glowing on Yelp, fixed my beater like magic, real family values. Big Jim mentored apprentices, his marine bark softened to guidance. One recruit, a trans kid named Riley fresh from foster care, reminded Jackson of his younger self, wary eyes, hands steady on tools. "Thanks for the shot, mister." "Hail," Riley said one afternoon, wiping sweat. Big Jim grunted, "Earn it, kid." But Jackson caught the nod of approval later. Henry proposed for real on a crisp October hike up Stone Mountain. No crowds, just them and the wind-whipped summit. He dropped to one knee amid boulders, ring glinting. "Marry me, Jack. Build this life, storms and all." Jackson's yes was a sob, yes a tackle hug, yes sealed with laughter echoing down the dome. They called Big Jim from the trailhead, speakerphone crackling. "'Bout time," he rumbled. "Whitaker, you heard him. I'll bury you under the van." Clara hooped over FaceTime, already plotting a joint ceremony. "Double weddings. Daniel's in. Says it's historically romantic." Winter crept gentle, Atlanta's rare snow dusting the city like confectioner's sugar. Holiday lights strung the walk-up, a menorah beside the tree, Henry's nod to his Jewish roots, Jackson's agnostic awe. Big Jim hosted Christmas Eve. The house transformed. Turkey carved precise. Clara's pies steaming. Gifts modest but heartfelt. A toolbox engraved, "Hail Strong." A photo album of Tommy's life curated tender. But climax's echo resounded in quiet ways. A letter arrived New Year's from the insurance company, contesting a clause on Tommy's payout, claiming irregularities tied to Big Jim's old gambling debts. $20,000 clawed back, threatening the van's lease. Desperation flickered, old habits whispering, but this time, unity held. Clara crunched alternatives. Daniel connected to a pro bono lawyer. Henry rallied his union for a benefit concert. Bluegrass band at a dive, proceeds pouring in. Jackson faced the hearing alone, suit ill-fitting, heart hammering in the sterile courthouse. The adjuster droned facts, but Jackson spoke from gut. "Tommy died saving me that night, pushed me from the truck's path. That policy is his last gift. Don't rob us of grace." His voice broke on grace. The room still. The judge, a silver-haired woman with kind eyes, ruled in their favor, full payout retained, a humanistic nod to losses ledger. News spread, the story hitting local rags. Brother's legacy saves family garage. Donations surged anew, but more letters, calls from queers in the sticks. "Your fight gave me words." Jackson read them aloud to Henry, voice thick. "We're not alone." Spring bloomed defiant, dogwoods pink against blue. The double wedding planned for May, courthouse for legal, backyard for heart. Invites went wide. Riley and crew, church allies, even Reverend Hayes, repentant. Big Jim practiced his toast, stumbling over love wins, but nailing the sentiment. Yet betrayal's final twist slithered in April's rain. Earl, cornered by debts, sold a lie to the paper, a smear piece. Hale fraud? Gay son's scheme exposed, twisting the theft, painting Jackson as grifter, family as farce. Phones rang off, clients canceling, whispers reigniting. Rage boiled, but Jackson channeled it. Oppressor at the lot, Big Jim at Mike. Lies from a low man. Were Hale's flawed, fighting, family. Henry flanked him, arm proud around waist. And proud. Gay, straight, whatever, love's the constant. Cameras flashed. Truth cutting fiction. The backlash flipped. Supporters mobilized. Boycotts on Earl's gigs. He vanished. Tail tucked. Lesson learned late. As wedding day dawned, sun gilding the backyard, Jackson stood in his tux, simple black, bow tie crooked. Henry adjusted it. I soft. Ready. With you? Always. Vows intertwined. Clara and Daniel first. Poetic and precise. Then Jackson and Henry. Row rhyme. In betrayal's wake. I choose your light. Rings slipped eternal. Kisses sealing, cheers erupting. Big Jim's whoop loudest. The reception danced till dusk. Fireflies joining the fray. Big Jim pulled Jackson for a slow turn to Sweet Caroline. Gruff whisper. Your moma'd love this. Love you. Night fell star-strewn. Honeysuckle sweet. Jackson and Henry slipped away to the river. Blankets and bourbon. Future unfurling like the Chattahoochee. Winding. Wild. There's. Summer's haze settled over Atlanta like a lover's breath. Humid. Insistent. Wrapping the newlyweds in a cocoon of possibility. Jackson and Henry honeymoon cheap. A road trip up the Blue Ridge Parkway. Windows down. Radio crooning Johnny Cash as mountains rolled emerald. They hiked to waterfalls. Mist-kissing skin. Making love in a tent to loon calls, bodies slick. Souls synced. This is us, Henry said one dawn, tracing Jackson's spine. No more hiding. Back home. Life layered on. Hale on wheels expanded. A second van christened with Tommy's name. Riley promoted to lead tech. Big Jim mentored with a paternal ease. His laugh lines deepening genuine. Clara bloomed pregnant. Daniels, a surprise announced over brunch. Her hand on a gentle swell. A Hale addition, she beamed. Big Jim already carving a crib from garage scraps. Jackson's advocacy sparked unintended. A podcast invite from a queer youth group. His story, from rejection to rings, drawing emails like moths. He spoke halting at first, voice gaining steel. Family's not blood. It's the ones who stay. Fight. Forgive. Henry beamed from the front row, ring catching light. But humanism's core tested in autumn's amber. Big Jim's health faltered, a cough lingering, doc diagnosing early emphysema from decades of smokes. Lungs like Swiss cheese, he joked over oxygen mask, but eyes held fear. Chemo loomed, bills stacking. The family circled wagons, fundraisers rebooted, Clara's church network praying practical meal trains, rides to infusions. Jackson sat vigil in sterile rooms, holding his father's hand, veins mapping battles lost and won. Regret nothing, son, Big Jim rasped one night, monitors beeping soft. You taught me love's bigger than pride. Jackson nodded, tears hot. Rest now. We've got the watch. Henry anchored through it. Nights when Jackson shattered, he'd hold wordless, heartbeat a lullaby. We're the story now, he'd say. The one that endures. Winter whispered goodbye in December. Big Jim slipping quiet on Christmas morning. Clara's baby kicking hello in her belly, a cycle poetic. The funeral was standing room. Garage lot packed, stories spilling like bourbon. Reverend Hayes eulogized honest. Jim Hale was sinner and saint, learned late, loved fierce. Jackson spoke last, voice steady. He fought wrong battles, then the right ones. For us, that's legacy. Grief carved hollows, but filled slow. Spring brought Clara's son, Thomas Daniel, red-faced whale echoing Tommy's. Jackson held him first, tiny fist clutching finger. Uncle Jack's got you, he whispered. Henry at shoulder, eyes misty. The garage thrived. A beacon, pride flag beside the hail sign, subtle but proud. Riley came out over beers, thanks for the blueprint, and the crew cheered, Big Jim's ghost in every hug. Years wove tapestry, Jackson's novel, a memoir romance, wrench and heart, hitting shelves modest, touching lives. Henry climbed foreman, proposing expansions, eco-conversions, green builds. They adopted a rescue mutt, Max, who snored at bedfoot, chaos incarnate. Clara's family grew, 2 more kids, Daniel's history lessons turning bedtime tales. Visits brimmed, barbecues under the pecan, Thomas toddling after tools. One anniversary, Jackson led Henry blindfolded to Stone Mountain's base, their spot. Unveiling, a plaque, simple bronze, for love that fights back. J&H. Henry's kiss was thunder, gratitude. Old age crept graceful. Silver threading hair, lines etching stories. They retired to a cabin upstate. Hale on wheels passed to Riley. Grandkids, Clara's brood, then their own via surrogacy. 2 boys with Henry's grin, filled summers with splash and squeal. On a porch swing, rockers synced. Jackson reflected. Rejection's sting faded, courage's fire banked warm. Betrayal? Fertilizer for roots deep. Worth it? Henry asked, hand in hand. Every scar, Jackson replied, sunset painting them gold. In America's heart, flawed, vast they'd carved home. Human, heroic,